Well, let's get started. I think pretty much everyone who is here has been to Roundtable before. If you're a first timer at a Roundtable, would you please raise your hand? Okay. All right, so you all know who I am. I'm Ellie Madro, and I am the Assistant District Commissioner for General Knox District for Roundtables. And I will start with, wait a minute. I want to share screen. There we go. All right, let's open our meeting. I can't find. There it is. Oh. All right, so please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join me in the Scout Oath and the Scout Law. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout Law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And I'll stop sharing for now. And we'll go on to Greg.
All right, thank you, Ellie. Welcome to our last roundtable for the 2023 year, and it's been a great year, coming in alternating in person and then virtual roundtables. So looking forward to see what 2024 brings for us all. All right, and here we go. So Mr. Alex Gott is here with us. Alex, anything you want to share about WOE coming up in the next couple months?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Not much to my knowledge has changed yet. If anything will change. For those of you who don't know for any reason, WOE is an event that we hold at Moses once a month, usually the third Saturday-ish. The next one is scheduled for January 20th. It's open from 9 to 3 to anyone in or out of scouting. You come up, there's a whole bunch of program activities. Serve lunch out of the trading post, or you can bring a lunch. And it's actually a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend it for troops or families. If you're ever interested in helping out, feel free to reach out to me or Nelson. Our emails are linked to the WOE page on the council website.
Thank you, Alex. Just wanted to make sure I'm having a hard time with my program here today. There we go. Something's just not working right. Rebecca. Yukon Days.
Yeah. So we've got Yukon Days coming up on January 27th. One of the main things we're going to be doing is a snowbox derby, and the Cub Scouts are going to construct at home a snow box that fits two of them and a buddy in it, and then we're going to go racing them down the hill, kind of a derby style.
Yeah, and the registration that is open now. What we're asking for PAX to do is to register, let us know you're coming. There's a $25 pre-registration fee to lock that in, and then put in, your best guess, how many youth and how many adults, and then you can finalize that when you get to the event. But it's open now, and the registration deadline, I think it's January 12th. To give Rebecca and the team ready time to get planned. And I know she's looking for a few more people to help with stations as well. So you can reach out to her. All of these folks on the, if you go to the calendar, go to the date of the events, and then there's contacts. And a couple people have told me there's no emails listed, but if you click on their names, you can email them directly. All right, Lynn, electives blast. Do you have any information for March?
Do I have any more information? Whatever's on the website from the previous, it's saying it's in Holyoke. It is not in Holyoke. It's at Bethel Temple. 1 to 4:30, $8 charge. The excuse me, I've been sick twice this year. Where was I? Oh, the programs, the elective programs are the same except for the Bears. There is no beat of the drum. It's a laughter event. My yo-yo guy, as of some other people, have not gotten back to me. I can't understand why people can't say yes or no, but whatever. One more email will go out and I will drop him like a hot cake. But as an Eagle Scout, I thought he would respond by now. So that's it. It's $8. 1 to 4:30. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And I don't think, is Jeff on? He can jump in and interrupt me, but the Klondike Derby, we already have units signing up for the Klondike Derby up at Moses. The next planning meeting is on Saturday, the 16th at 7 p.m. You can reach out to Jeff by email, or I think his phone number is on the page, and he'll send you the information for that. And we have a number of people helping out already. I know he's still looking for, I think, 2 or 3 station leads to help out as well for that. Same as the Cub Scouts, just asking the troop to make a deposit. I think it's an $80 deposit, and then they estimate on the number of people to attend. The only real restriction on changes for that is that Jeff may not be able to add more patrols. So if you get a larger group, that might be a limitation. But adding youth and subtracting youth and adults will not be a problem at the event. All right, Operation Zero, I think I had indicated earlier, it was on a slide there. There was not enough folks signed up in time for that. So that's been postponed, and Mike Zolgar is looking at when that might be rescheduled in the future. And anybody here from the lodge? I think unless somebody jumps in, I'll just say, if you were planning to go to the holiday party, please note that the date was changed, the time was changed, the location was changed, and they're doing their best to get it corrected everywhere, but it seems to keep going out with some misinformation. But it is Sunday, December 17th from 4 to 8 in East Long Meadow at the Meadows Lodge. That information is correct on the website, and some of their other events are for the rest of the spring is there for you as well. Pinewood Derbies, I'll just share that they're up on the website. Registration is not open yet, but all the hosts are in place for those events, and the sites are set. Registration will open probably early to mid-January. We'll be looking this year, ideally, we really would like to go back to having the units do the registration and keep all the individuals together. So units collect the money, and units make the reservation instead of having individuals doing that registration for us. And MBU, anybody here from MBU? I know that information is expected to go out soon. It will likely come directly from them to the troops themselves. So the dates are set and information out soon. And Dr. Scannell, how about Spring Camporee?
So the Spring Camporee is tentatively being named the Eco Challenge 2024. For those of you who remember the Eco Challenge 2017 Camporee, this is being sponsored in part by the Conservation Committee. Our goal is to introduce Scouts to conservation themes and careers so that they can go forward and look at outdoor careers for their perhaps their college education and whatnot. We will be doing a number of outside vendors, agencies, and non-government organizations. Last time we had the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the DCR Forestry, Forest Pest Management. We have some arborists, some solar demonstrations, the Mass Fish and Wildlife, NRCS, National Resources Conservation Service, and of course our own outdoor ethics. We'll have the Watershed Alliance. And it will run with rotating programs, introductions to all of those different groups and activities to expose all the scouts to the different pieces of that all morning. And then in the afternoon, since we had so much success last time, the groups will run some form of a conservation project at the camp. So we're looking forward to it. We can always use help on that day. We'll be, as we start to get into crunch time a little closer, we'll start to have some meetings and maybe see if we can get some people to raise their hands and be available to help us during the day. So looking forward to it.
Thank you, Steve. Summer camp, the registration is open. Those units that attended this past summer and were interested in securing the loyalty rate, that closed over the weekend, but registration's already filling up. Week 2 is again our most popular, so space is getting limited there. Also, just highlight week 5 is there's no Cub Scout program that week, and our NYLT youth training is scheduled for that week. So look for that information online. Prices are online now as well, and we're excited to see what 2024 brings. And I won't give lots of information, but just in case you haven't heard that the Cub Scout program is getting a pretty major update this spring, look for that information online. I know Roundtable is planning to bring some information to you as well.
Okay.
And 1 week every month on Friday afternoons, Cubcast is doing a feature on specific pieces of those updates. So you could find some information online, look on Facebook for the Cubcast. They record those and you can watch them in the past, previous ones as well. And we will be sharing information as we learn it as well. And I think that's it for me, Ellie.
Okay. Cub Chat Live is also archived, so if you are missing any of that information, you can go back to it. Also, this past weekend with the College of Commissioner Science, we all received some information about what is happening, what is coming. And if anyone is interested, there is a week at Philmont this summer at Philmont Training Center that is devoted to the Cub Scout changes that are coming up. So I will tell you that Philmont is absolutely fabulous, offers you some wonderful trainings. And I see several people smiling because they've been and they know. So if you would like that, we're going to have a few minutes coming up with someone else talking about Philmont. Okay. In fact, let's do that right now. Ritz, we have a couple of things in chat. Okay. A note from Art that everyone, 70% of the units have been able to turn in charters on time, and he's very thankful for that. Art, is there anything else you'd like to add? I guess not. Okay, let me go to sharing my screen. And see what I get. Fritz.
Hey, thank you, Ellie. This is the time of year when we New Englanders start thinking about a summer vacation in a sunny climate. And I would just like to recommend that you think about heading down to New Mexico and driving through beautiful downtown Cimarron and winding up at the Philmont Training Center. There are a couple things that they do very, very well. I've been there several times and have had a great experience each time. The training center offers trainings on a variety of topics, trainings are a week long. You check in on Sunday for supper, and you check out after breakfast the following Saturday. And I just gave you a couple of examples on the slide here of things that are coming up. So if you are serving as a commissioner in any capacity, whether it's a roundtable commissioner or a unit commissioner or administrative commissioner, there's a commissioner week that offers a topic that you might be interested in. Membership is a big issue in every council, including ours, and there's a membership growth week a little bit later on in June. Ellie mentioned the new Cub Scout program. There are 2 whole weeks of Cub Scout programming sessions based on the new Cub Scout program that will explain in more detail than you probably want to know on what the new program entails and how it's going to work. I also think this is an important session. Years ago, Mike Dubois and Cheryl Isaac and I attended the Key 3 for our district and had a great experience. We have a new council commissioner, a new council president, and an experienced council executive, and they would probably benefit by going to the council Key 3 course and learning how they can best serve our council and help us be even more successful than we've been so far. And if you're in Scouts BSA, there is a whole week of training for that, including training for Wood Badge directors. And we have a new one that will be serving this coming spring, 1.5 years from now. So she might be interested in taking that course. And we offer NYLT every year. So there's also a course to train the trainers for NYLT. The second thing that they do really well that I'll talk about very quickly is the Family Adventure Camp. You can go for a whole week, Sunday through Saturday. You can go for half a week, either Sunday through Wednesday or Wednesday through Saturday. You pick what you want to do that week. You can go horseback riding, you can go fishing, you can visit the National Scouting Museum. The Kit Carson Museum is just down the road. They have a really exciting handicraft lodge where stuff is going on all the time. And there are different evening activities going on every single night. So there's lots of fun stuff to do there. I'm not going to give you prices because they vary depending on where you choose to stay. You can stay in a 2-person tent. You can stay in a family tent. You can stay in an apartment. Whatever you think is suitable, and the prices are based on that. Your meals are all covered in your training fee or your adventure camp fee. And down at the bottom, you can go to philmontscoutranch.org, or you can Google Philmont Training Center. All of those things will get you there. And if you want to ask questions of me, I'm happy to answer any questions about Philmont. I'm serving as Philmont ambassador for our council, so please contact me by email. You can copy it off the bottom there, or you can just find me in General Knox District and send me an email directly through the council. So please consider this. You will have a fabulous time. I have no doubt about that. There are a number of other folks from our council who have gone multiple times. The Matros are in that group, and the Isaacs are part of that group. So please don't hesitate
Halls,
to talk to them and ask.
Williams is. Yeah.
Yep, there are lots of folks who've been. So please ask. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Great. Next up, David O'Leary. And I think I can just go to the next slide for you, David. Oh, this is interesting the way this landed.
Didn't quite work out, but just I guess a quick note first before we jump into this hot topic, kind of following up on a couple of comments in the chat and etc. In my non-outdoor ethics conservation role as council commissioner, I wanted to first thank both Peter and Ellie and Cheryl and anyone else who helped, Peter Isaac, all the folks who helped to run and plan the College of Commissioner Science this past Saturday. And
Mary
thank all the
Benjamin, Matt Tassinary.
Yes, yeah, a bunch of people, and thanks for planning and making sure that event was a big success, and to all those who attended. We are always looking for additional commissioners, and so feel free to reach out to me if you are interested in finding new ways to help out not only your own unit, but other units in the council or your district. Other note on from a commissioner perspective, Art put a little note in the chat about rechartering, and you can see that the rechartering process is well underway. A lot of units have completed already, which is great. And we're just kind of, finalizing things, making sure there are no problems and such. A bunch of other units have already started. If you have not started or you're underway and you're getting stuck somewhere, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask myself or Art or Fritz, and we will do, or your unit commissioner, and we will do what we can to help you get things unstuck and figure out the next steps. But do not hesitate to ask for help. So I think that's it on the commissioner side. And so we'll kind of shift into this presentation. I'm wearing my other hat here as a conservation and outdoor ethics committee member, along with Steve Scannell. And we were asked to present a hot topic of nature in scouting. And unfortunately, it looks like the slide says nature in scouting, but I think you get the idea. From all of this, we have a forest and some wildlife.
Just pretend there's an N and an S right in there.
An S there, yeah, exactly, yeah. So as we think about nature in scouting, you can advance the slide, please, Ellie.
Yes.
So what comes to mind when you think about nature? And this could be in scouting or when you were growing up or with your family or anything like that. You can either raise your hand and or put a little note in the chat. What is it? Do you enjoy geology and rocks? Do you like swimming and being in the water? Is there a time you enjoyed fishing with your family? Does being in nature make you happy, or does it make you sad? Again, put a little note in the chat or raise your hand. I can't see all of the participants, so if you're raising your hand, I can't see it yet. I'm gonna move around here a little bit. Does anybody have anything they want to say about their experience in nature? Okay. Enjoy the life that is found in nature. Okay. Anybody else? Looks like Carl is actually out in nature right now himself. I guess, Carl, do you like winter?
Oh, I like all seasons.
All seasons, okay.
Yeah, the background was South Twin Mountain up in New Hampshire in September.
Oh, you Carl. Oh, yeah, I see. Oh, other Carl is what I was looking at. Carl is out in winter, but yeah, I see you also have a great nature background there.
That's my old troop cabin. Still stands, even though it's been abandoned for 20 years.
Yep. Anybody else like nature or not like nature? Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, what I enjoy the most about it, I think, is being out in it, is the change of pace, the slowdown, the decompression that happens. I think that's invaluable. You can, some people are good at meditating, different things like that. But when you get out in nature, it does it for you. So that's what I enjoy the most about it.
Yep, that makes sense. Anyone else have something to share? Ellie, go ahead.
Yeah, growing up on the lake in Holland, you just never knew what each day was going to bring. And yes, we could hear the highway down at the south end of the lake, but we could also hear and then watch the rain just as it came up the lake, and pass through. Being able to sit and watch thunderstorms and just head out in the rowboat or kayaking and stuff. It was just, I think Steve hit it on the head when he said, the change of pace. And
Mhm.
the idea that you can just, so it's great.
Yes, yeah, and I see Heather says relaxing with a cup of coffee in front of the campfire. So seems like a bit of a theme there. Some of those memories and emotions that tie you to nature. Okay, and next slide, please. So since this is a Scout Roundtable, why do we think studying nature is part of Scouting? This is a participatory roundtable, not a passive roundtable. So,
We talk about character counts and nature, and taking care of nature and our home is part of building character.
yes, sure, sure. Anybody else have something to share?
I also think that it's part of being reverent, like have that respect for the land, and just like, I don't know, just appreciating it, like seeing it and noticing it, because so many people just walk by and don't even see what's happening. Like there's something cool happening every time. I get excited. I'm sorry, I'm a biologist. I get like really excited about nature. I've got to.
That's great, actually. I'm glad to hear. You should not have to apologize for being excited about nature.
Well,
Anyone
most of
else?
us don't.
Oh,
Well,
go ahead,
most of us
Fritz.
don't want to admit that we're part of nature. We absolutely are. And it really is all around us. And most of us aren't aware. I've got a bird feeder out back, and I love watching the birds come and see the different ones, and the hawk sitting up in the tree watching and paying attention to all those little birds too, and figuring out which one's going to be his next snack.
Right. Yep. Anyone else have something to share?
But there's no mistake that Scouting since its inception has made the outdoors part of the methods of Scouting, and the studying of nature is a big part of that. How we integrate with it, how we fit into it, how we observe it. It has not only a calming effect, but it develops a sense of responsibility that youth just jump on. And especially nowadays in our society is just a little bit different in how we're caught up in electronics and our pace, and there's being pulled in so many different directions. We'll often start some of our activities with just getting out there, closing our eyes, taking a couple of deep breaths, and just trying to think about where you are and get in that moment. And then the learning starts after that. It's just endless questioning, inquisitiveness. It's fascinating once you get that introduction to it. And I think it's just so critical for us to get the Scouts out there.
When you take your Scouts out there, get them in the middle of the woods, get them somewhere far away, sit them down and say, be totally silent for 3 minutes, totally silent, just listen. And after they do that, it is amazing what they will tell you that they heard. They'll say, oh, I heard that ant just go by. Something as simple as that. But it is an appreciation for the outdoors. But take a silent moment and just listen.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of excellent points there. We're all, whether we live in a city or out in the country somewhere, we're all, involved and connected to nature somehow. And especially out here in Western Massachusetts, I think we have a lot of opportunity to be close to nature. And the different aspects, whether it's as came up, the reverence part, or the science part, or the appreciation and stewardship part, lots of different aspects that all fit into Scouting. So go ahead, Ellie. And how, I guess this question, kind of came up here. How do we help our Scouts learn about and appreciate nature? So Peter shared, just being out there and, spending some time in silence and reflecting is a great way. And again, there's kind of the reverence part, and also just the science part. Any other suggestions about helping Scouts learn about and appreciate nature?
Especially at the Cub Scout level, David, they were doing like a themed mini hike where they have a sheet of paper and find something that you see in each of the colors, have a list of colors on the paper, find something that is green, something that is yellow, something, okay? And it can't be a candy wrapper or a discarded Cheez-It bag kind of thing. It's got to be something that is related to nature. Same kind of thing about textures. And different themes like that can help them really tune into what's happening in and around them when they're outside.
Just remember, there are some things you don't touch, like poison ivy.
Yeah.
Excellent suggestion. And that's where the science part comes in, right? Being able to identify which one is poison ivy, so you know. So why don't you go ahead? I know we want to keep moving along and wrap up. So there are a couple of slides here. One is just some resources, and we have, like, you don't have to be a nature expert to share nature with your Scouts, but we do have a lot of resources available. The Cub Scout handbooks have the various adventures. As was mentioned, the adventures are going to be changing next year, but there's still a bunch of good information there. And the Den Leader guides have some hints on how to introduce our Scouts to nature. In particular with Cub Scouts, we're not trying to make them experts. It's feeling a connection. And the Cub Scout age youth are starting to develop empathy, and many Scouts or many young people can feel that empathy for animals actually as soon as they do for people. You know, they may feel more empathy for their pet than they do for their brother or their little sister. So nature can be a way to kind of, you know, build that empathy. In the Blue training for Cub leaders, we have modules on nature, hiking, and leave no trace that all can help you understand this. We're, again, very fortunate out here in Western Massachusetts, where we have lots of access to many great local parks and the state forests. There are nature centers throughout the area. The museums, the Springfield Museum has a great natural history museum. Up in Amherst at Amherst College, et cetera. There's a bunch of great places that we can take our Scouts and learn about nature. One of our council conservation folks, Bob Kidd, wrote a nature guide for Moses Scout Reservation with identifying many plants and animals and wildlife that you can find throughout Western Massachusetts. It's focused at Moses, but those animals are not limited to Moses. They do roam around a little bit. And then something else I wanted to point out, Scouts have a partnership with Project Learning Tree. That's the plt.org. And if you search online for Project Learning Tree and Scouts, you'll find these links. But there's a guide there for the Project Learning Tree activities, and there are many different activities, and they have what they call a correspondence, but basically they align these different activities that are available online with the various Project Learning Tree activities and then the Cub Scout adventure. So that's a great resource for you too.
David, another resource might be some of the people who are on the conservation committee for Scouts. And I have to tell you, right here in General Knox District, we have a guy who pretty much that was his life, working at the Quabbin. And I'm going to suggest, if you have any inkling of getting outside and doing any kind of a nature trail or walk, to get a hold of Peter Isaac. He has a wealth of information, and I know that he'd be willing to share it and help you out.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would. Now,
And,
he
and
didn't know that I'm recommending him, so don't blame me. Just tell you heard about it. But
and
don't blame
Steve
me.
Scannell, and Steve
Yes, I'm going to
Scannell as
actually
well.
get to
and-
that slide in a couple
Yeah.
slides. So
Steve, you have a hand raised too.
yes,
Yeah, as David said before too, you don't have to be an expert at this. A big part of this is the sort of the partnership you build with the scouts. When you see a bird or you see a salamander and you don't know what it is to say, I don't know, let's go find out. There's so many different resources, field guides and things that process of teasing that information out is a way that to learn that you never forget, and for yourself as well. But that's really don't ever be afraid to launch in. Well, first of all, don't be afraid to say you don't know what it is, because that's the most important thing. But to then find out, and that can be exciting. That can really carry that field event back into the classroom setting, or back to the troop meeting or the den meeting, and take it from there. So
Yeah.
that's a great process.
I know that we try to disconnect from our devices when we're out in nature, but a fellow scouter from Connecticut put me onto the Cornell Lab app called Merlin. And that you just tell it you want to sound ID, and it records the bird singing, and it will then bring up the photo and the things and the information about the bird. So then you know what to be looking for. It's a really, really neat app. I wish
Yes.
it had been around a lot when I was a lot younger. So
yes, there are a bunch of resources like that. And so,
Yeah.
if you want to advance to the next slide, and kind of a similar slide here for Scouts BSA, the handbook and the field book are great resources. There are a lot of merit badge books that deal with various nature topics. And I didn't put a whole list in. This Moses Scout Reservation Nature Guide, I see Greg put a link in the chat, the Flora and Fauna book. So that's something you can buy out at the council office, or if the trading post is open at Moses when you're there. It's a great resource. Again, there's a project learning tree series of activities that connect to the different Scout rank advancements. And I saw Heather put in the chat about Ecotarium. Is the Ecotarium, I don't know what, Science Center, I guess.
yeah, in Worcester.
In Worcester, right? I guess it's a science center or something like that. Yeah, another great place to visit. So anyway, lots of resources to help. And you don't, as Steve said, you don't need to be an expert. And I think following what he said, I think the experience there of finding things out is actually a great way for the scouts to, practice using the apps and practice, learning and doing science and things that they can apply, later in their lives. So again, next slide, and say thanks for listening. I know we went for a little while. In addition to myself and Steve, as was noted, Peter Isaac, I didn't want to put Peter's name on here without checking with him, but Peter Matro called him out anyway. So we're all we're all quite active in this area, and glad to help out as resources for your units, et cetera. So I think that's it for the presentation. But again, don't hesitate to ask, and please feel free to share if you find other resources that you think are great. I think it's time for the breakouts now, right?
Well, not quite, but the idea that we have resources within the council, and for you to mention that, and that kind of segues into what we were talking about next with the council and district committee member information of, who are some of the contact person. Alex, you spoke earlier during Greg's piece about announcements. Is there anything else? You're on the docket this evening to talk a little bit about WOA. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about WOA? Or did you touch on it all before?
Unless there's any specific questions, I think touched on it pretty much where I already wanted to talk about, unless there's any specific questions.
I don't see any hands raised or anything. If something comes up throughout the evening, don't be afraid to throw questions into chat and we can touch base on them towards the end of the evening. And Mary, you're going to talk to us about canceling meetings and especially around weather related, whatever. When do we know how to cancel it, when we need to cancel a meeting, Mary,
Well,
for our safety moments?
for the safety moment, a lot of this is really common sense, but it's a helpful reminder. When we're looking at the weather and we're watching the weather forecasts, and I get up at 6:30 on prospective snow days to have a meeting at work to decide whether or not we're going to open my office. But a lot of it is you need to pay attention to the weather. If it looks like it's going to be a blizzard by 6 o'clock, you might want to consider canceling your meeting. If your charter organization or where you're holding your meeting is closed for the evening, obviously that's a time you're not going to be able to hold a meeting. You may want to either reconsider, picking a new date or just postponing whatever the activity is, or possibly looking at, is it something that can be held by a Zoom? Weather is definitely a thing. If you don't want to go out, do all your other leaders want to go out? And that's the other piece. You got to make sure you have your two deep leadership. So even if your meeting place is open, do you have enough leaders to actually hold the meeting? Not everybody drives in the snow. If the town closes, you absolutely don't want to be out, because that means they're really worried about the impending weather. So you really kind of just have to pay attention. Do you have a meeting place available? Do you have enough leadership to hold it? Is there a blizzard forecasted? Is it 3 feet of snow on the ground already and they've closed all the schools by 9 a.m. and everybody got sent home? Those are really all the things that you really need to take a thought about. I think it's not so much whether or not you cancel your meeting, though, is the safety moment. I think the piece that we really need to work on is communicating if we're not going to be holding the meeting. You need to make sure you have all of your options available. You need to make sure you either have social media or email or phone call trees or something to make sure that people are informed if you do choose to cancel your meeting. You hate to find out that your parent didn't get a phone call or didn't get an email, and they're out in the middle of the blizzard because they think you're still having a meeting and they're sitting there for a half hour waiting to reach you. It's a good time to revisit our phone trees and our email systems and double checking to make sure that, if you're using, for the Scouts, especially like the Scouts BSA groups, if you're using Troop Master or one of the other programs, are all the contact information's updated to make sure that you're communicating this to people so that they know in advance. Nobody says you have to cancel a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning. The weather might turn. It's New England. The weather could turn at 2, could turn at 3, could turn at, an hour before the meeting. So you just need to watch the weather forecast, check with your charter organizations or your meeting places, but make sure you have the ability to communicate everybody. And you want to make sure that one person is in charge of that communication. You want to make sure that whoever's sending the email has conferred with, the people in charge and have all the up-to-date information and all the up-to-date contact information. We do a lot of texting between adult leaders these days. We do a lot of social media. Facebook is for old people, but we still use it. However you can communicate to people. If it's not safe to travel, then, making sure that everybody knows at the time the meeting's supposed to be held, if we're having one or not, and making sure you get that out to everybody. After you've watched the news and they've said, oh, we're closing down all the highways and everything's down to 20. So I think that's my safety moment for the day is not so much if you cancel it. It's great if you cancel it, great if you have another plan. But just make sure you're communicating that to people. Keep them safe if you've chosen not to hold your meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. You mentioned contacting everybody. This past week, I met with Tara, and Tara turned me on to an app that is a private group, so that when you're texting, things don't get lost in the whole web of texts. Tara, can you quickly either put into chat or open up your mic and give us the name of that app again?
It's called the Band app, BAND. I can put the link in there as well. but it's a free app. It looks very similar to Facebook, but it is completely private. The only way that somebody can join a group that you create is by invitation. So nobody can search it and find it, which keeps all of your photos that you're sharing from your unit activities private. It allows you to create calendar events and along with RSVPs. My favorite feature is that it removes that maybe feature that Facebook has on their events, so that people either have to say they're coming or they're not coming. It also allows you to put a deadline on your RSVPs. So if you need to have that cut off, weeks in advance, or it's okay to do it a week before, you get to control that. And again, it has a feed that looks similar to Facebook.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Tara. I couldn't remember the name of it, and it sounded like it was really
Greg,
right up our alley.
Greg
You
used
can
to have
also
camp too.
you can
Great
also
app.
link the Scout Book calendar to the band app as well.
Great. Nice stuff to know. Okay. All right. Greg, we are ready to head to breakouts.
Excuse my voice. I've been getting over an illness, so it's end of the day, it gets a bit rough. I'll do my best to make it through today. Ellie's going to jump in at some point and help out a little bit. But I wanted to share my screen. Give me a second here. This way. Hopefully.
Looks good.
You see, all right, title screen. All right, tonight's topic is PAC meeting themes. This is adjacent to what we talked about last week when we talked about, or last month rather, when we talked about planning our PAC meeting. Tonight we're going to talk about themes, and I had mentioned themes last week as an important part, or last month. I don't know why I have last week in my brain, but last month I mentioned themes as an important part of your PAC meeting plan, is to have a theme, to have a common topic around which your meeting centers. So why do we want to use themes? Like I said, it's going to serve as an anchor. It's going to give you a
Greg,
central. Yes.
Your screen share is not in present view. It's like showing, like there are tiny little things that on my end I can't really see what they. Yes, now it's good.
There we go.
I had the screens reversed. Sorry. Thank you. I'm not used to doing videos on this computer. Anyway, excuse me. So why use themes? It gives us a central topic for each gathering, and it helps our scouts learn about different topics. So it gives them a variety of different things that they're learning from month to month. Having a theme is going to get your families more energized, more involved in the meeting. If it's something that excites them, then they're going to want to participate, and it's going to encourage participation, and then you're going to have, them excited to come to your PAC meeting every month. And finally, it can really make things more memorable. So I want to give you some ideas of where to find some ideas for themes. First of all, of course, scouting.org has is a good source out on the scouting.org website, and I have the link here. There's a bunch of themes, and you'll notice that the themes are all related to a point of the Scout Law. We talked about this a little bit last month as well. Is part of what we should be doing in our PAC meetings is relating it back to the Scout Law. We're trying to instill these values in our scouts, and what better way to do it than to bring that to them every month in the PAC meeting. So you can see here under trustworthy, they have some suggested themes that you could run your PAC meetings. It's loyal and helpful, and they have these. I don't have them all shown on the screen, but they do have these for all 12 points of the Scout Law. I will say that these were created in the 2015 to 2018 time frame. They had rolled them out one theme per point of the Scout Law every year for about 3 years. and they haven't updated them since, but these are still good resources to go back to and look at for ideas. You don't have to follow it exactly, but it gives you some good ideas of things that you can incorporate into your PAC meetings. One other good source that I found, I just found this as I was researching for this presentation, is the Sam Houston Area Council has some pretty cool themes out on their website as well. So if you go, here's the links right here. But as I was looking through these, they have, you know, creepy crawlers, holiday celebration. It's a jungle out there. So they have all kinds of different themes that you can, excuse me, that you can implement in your PAC meeting. And like I said, these are all just ideas, you know, generating ideas, and you can obviously you can adapt them to what will work for your PAC. I do want to share a couple other things, or one other thing real quick. But I stopped sharing. All right, there we are. Let me find my one other thing I want to share real quick. Just bear with me one moment, please. So, where'd my Zoom go? There we are. Hopefully you guys can see this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so this is, I went into the Sam Houston Area Council, one of the themes. And so this is the whole, you know, the PDF that's in there. There's other resources in each theme has a website, a separate page to it, and they have a bunch of other resources linked to it. But one of the links is this PDF, and it gives you all kinds of different content related to that theme. So as you can see through the table of contents, it has gathering activities, everything you need for a good PAC meeting, from the gathering activities to the Cub Master Minute and the closing ceremonies. And then they have different 6 different options here in this one. So this is a really good resource. Excuse me, I'm sorry to cough in everybody's thing, but here you give us an example of a gathering activity. So you can do, you know, a backward and forward type of puzzle or a word search that you could print out and give to your scouts to do as they arrive. And all kinds of other great ideas are found in this theme. And you know, so this is something you could do for your December PAC meeting if you're so desired. So before we open it up to conversation, I know Ellie had something else she wanted to share related to themes. I'll turn it over to Ellie for a moment.
Yes, and I noticed in now let me see where I have to go. All right. Hang on a second here. I need to nope, that's not it. I have to find how I'm going to get to where I want to be. I had something up on show. Let's see where I was. Oh.
While we're waiting for Ellie, what are
Okay.
some? Oh, you got it?
I thought I had this all prepped and ready to go, and I can't find it. Here we go. All right.
You got it. All right.
Here we go. There is something out there that's called Baloo's Bugle, and let me see if we can do this. Baloo's Bugle. All right. This is put out by the U.S. Scouting Service Project, and it hasn't been updated since 2015. But I want to show you, this is how you, oh, I'm not screen sharing, am I? Let me see. to pull this up. The technology and I don't always get along. Here we go. All right. So hopefully now you can see. Can you see me moving my cursor around?
Yes, we
Okay.
can see it, Ellie.
All right. So this is the website for what is called the Blues Bugle. And you will see that these are archived back to 1997. Some of the things that you showed us, Greg, referenced, I noticed, Blues Bugle. I'm going to go to not August. I think it's this one. January 1999. When you open it up, you will see some things that say it's Word. Believe me, right now, things in Word don't open up in the new Word, but you can go and you can open in PDF. And this will give you some information about, this one is planning for the blue and gold as well. So some tips about planning for your banquet, some prayers and poems for Scouters that have come from Scouters, and they'll tell you this comes from the Denver Area Council. So these, while it's not an official BSA website, there are some really cool things. As you scroll through it, here are some information about training tips, how blue and gold got started. And then here's some adaptations of songs. If you're happy and you know it, but here's a Tiger's Tail song. Some information about tiger cubs. And then as you go through it, some ways of recognizing things, different awards, some pre-openings. This one in particular is like 24 pages long. Some of them get to be 50 or 60 pages long. Scouting is, so some skits. Here's an opening ceremony. Here's some things about good turns. Scouting anniversary week. I'm trying to scroll through rather quickly, but I wanted to be able to show you there's a point where there are some crafts. Here's how to make a little Cub Scout out of a spice bottle, and lists all of the things you need. How to make a blue and gold tie slide. A crossover keepsake. Okay. Advancement ceremonies. Lots and lots of information archived. Audience participation, more skits, fun foods. And I'm only on page 12. Let's see. Some quizzes and different things. So there are lots of different information within that. Now let me go to, this is a piece of what I did. I went to Blues Bugle and I listed the themes for you. So starting in 1998, the theme of detective, then crime prevention.
Ellie, all we see is your Zoom.
Oh,
page.
okay. Hang on. Let me stop
Ellie,
sharing. And
Ellie,
let
while
me,
you're doing that, I think it's
Yep.
really important to know that all of the things in Blues Bugle were made by Cub Scout leaders for Cub Scout leaders.
yes. Yeah.
And so it's somebody from the front lines. It's not somebody who's
Right.
sitting there in an office dreaming stuff up.
Right.
And it's all
So,
practical
yeah.
stuff.
Right. So this is, I put together an index of the Blues Bugles. Prior to 1998, even though they're there, they don't necessarily have some themes or topics. But here now, this listing has all of the different themes. Cub Grub is all about cooking and all different kinds of food. We were just talking about conservation, bugs and things. Our gifts and our talents. There was a point in time, you will remember, that we had, we did not have the 12 points of the Scout Law. We had the, oh, I forgot what they called them.
Law of the pack.
Yeah, but there
Core
were
values.
the core values. Thank you, Rebecca. I couldn't come up with it. And so some of these will be marked as related to the core value. And so we'll see that. But here's one about music, faith, hope, and charity. Inventions, invent a reason to celebrate. So lots and lots and lots of information. So I am going to stop sharing, but now I need somebody, Greg. Can I just take and drag and drop that document into chat?
Yes.
I think you will have to email it out.
No, you should be able to drop it in chat.
Oh, really?
As a Word document?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I will drop that into chat for everyone, because it's such a, I tried to do it in a way that if you were looking for a theme, you could find something related and then you knew which Baloo's Bugle to go to. The wealth of information that is in there, some of it you're going to have to kind of tweak a little bit now that we have girls. But still, it's just wonderful, wonderful information for you there. So, all right.
All right, thanks, Ellie. Yeah, like Ellie said, there's a lot of good information out there. We just listed, we listed 3 really good places to get information on themes and ideas for your pack meetings to make them fun and exciting for your scouts. We have a few minutes left. I don't want Ellie and I to do all the talking. So what ideas do you guys have, or what's worked for you in the past as far as themes or ideas for pack meetings? Just feel free to jump in. Don't bother to raise a hand or anything. Just jump in.
We've done meetings like where it's focused on like safety. So we had like a fireman come in, and then like all the activities linked with like fire safety and other types of safety that different ranks or, dens. That's the word I wanted. Different dens needed.
Yep. Okay. Heard somebody else.
That was me just piggybacking on Rachel's comment.
All right, yeah, you guys are the same pack, so
Yep.
One of the best ones I've ever seen, and I still remember it from years ago, for a blue and gold. The theme was the Olympics, and the leaders played the music from Chariots of Fire, and in slow motion, the leaders ran in, and it was hilarious. But everybody got it, and everybody went with it. Blue and gold themes it's amazing what you leaders come up with. So just let your mind wander.
I remember being at a crossover where it was held outside. There were 2 that were memorable, but one was where the Cub Scouts had been camping. There was a brook that ran through the camp area, and they built a bridge, Cub Scouts, to this area where the Boy Scouts at the time were camping. And they held their crossover ceremony. They literally crossed that bridge, and then they burned their bridge as their opening campfire as Boy Scouts. And another one that was based on the theme of Survivor. And they all had their torches, and they were voted out of the pack. So.
No, as Peter was talking, I was thinking that an Olympic theme may be appropriate for 2024. So you guys have
Yes.
time to plan something.
And now you have a resource in Baloo's Bugle to help you do some of that planning too. Yeah.
Sound familiar to all of you. So go ahead. Next slide, please. Okay, so outdoor ethics, what is it and why do we have it? And some of you may remember the mission of the Boy Scouts of America. Hopefully this seems at least somewhat familiar to you, even if you can't quote it, word in every line and sentence and verse. But the mission of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare young people to make ethical and moral choices over their lifetimes by instilling in them the values of the Scout oath and law. So I wanted to just highlight that about ethical and moral choices. So that's what outdoor ethics is about, ethical, making decisions about the outdoors. And of course, the outdoors is one of our methods in scouting. There are 8 methods. This is stuff you probably learned back when you took scout leader training a long time ago, or that new leader essentials, or depending on when you joined. You learned about the mission of the scouts and our aims and methods. So anyway, not surprisingly, I think we all know that the methods, one of the methods is outdoor programs. And I think this language right here really talks about it, is that we're in the outdoor setting, sharing responsibilities, learning to live with one another. And this last sentence, being close to nature helps scouts gain an appreciation for God's handiwork. And I see it got cut off, but I'm going to read this to you here. Well, anyway, it talks about the importance of our being connected to the outdoor world. And some of these things we were just talking about in our last conversation there in the full group. So go ahead, next slide, please. So how do we actually do this in Scouts? So hopefully these phrases here sound familiar to you. The outdoor code is something all of our Scouts learn and have been learning for a long time. The outdoor code, and you can see this is kind of an older looking document here. It's actually from the 1950s, so it's been around for quite a while in scouting. The 4 parts of the outdoor code, and many troops now recite that along with the Scout oath and law as part of their weekly meetings. So it's been around for a long time, and that's really the aspirational part. I will be conservation minded. I will be careful with fire. And then the leave no trace principles are what we use for most of our recreational activity, hiking, camping, canoeing, whatever it may be. The 7 principles of leave no trace. And again, hopefully you're all somewhat familiar with those. Tread lightly applies specifically in scouting to motorized recreation. So some of you may have been out to Moses and used the ATVs. So that's kind of where tread lightly comes in. And there's 5 principles of tread lightly, kind of overlap with the leave no trace principles, but they have some specific guidance for reducing and eliminating our impacts when we're riding ATVs. And then finally, the land ethic is kind of what kind of pulls this all together and relates back to what we talked about in the previous session of how do we think about nature and our connection to nature? How do we protect it? When we understand nature and we understand the different pieces of nature and how we relate, then we're inspired to want to protect it. So those are kind of the 4 parts of outdoor ethics within BSA: the outdoor code, leave no trace, tread lightly, and the land ethic. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a lot of resources and how we implement this within scouting. One is for a troop or a venturing crew is the Outdoor Ethics Guide. So this is a position of responsibility. So just like a patrol leader or scribe or historian, it's a youth leader position. And the Outdoor Ethics Guide, their role is to help the other scouts learn about outdoor ethics and practice outdoor ethics. And that has a couple of aspects. One is for the scouts, tenderfoot, second class, first class, as they're learning about how to camp and how to hike and how to cook in the outdoors. The Outdoor Ethics Guide helps them learn how to do that in a way that where they leave no trace. And this little Outdoor Ethics Guide handbook, it kind of looks pretty official. It's only about 20 pages long, so it's not too big, but it provides a lot of information about how the Outdoor Ethics Guide can be effective in the troop. Again, coaching the younger scouts, but also when the troop is planning a camping trip or planning a hike, that the Outdoor Ethics Guide can be there to help with that planning and plan to minimize impacts. The Outdoor Ethics Guide, this handbook also has some hints for for an adult leader who would be advising the youth member and helping them kind of navigate how to be effective in this role. I think many of us don't like to be told what to do, and sometimes an Outdoor Ethics Guide youth member might be a little enthusiastic or over enthusiastic in telling people, don't build a big fire, or do it this way, or don't do it that way. And especially within Leave No Trace and Outdoor Ethics, we try to make sure people understand why it is they're doing something, and they think about it as a choice. Remember, it's ethics, not orders and rules and laws, but ethics. We're making choices about how to minimize their impact. And so that's why it's valuable to have an advisor to help kind of coach and mentor that youth who is serving in that role. And I'll share these slides, but you'll note as we're going through, there are links at the bottom. It's a little hard to see on the slide and when it's hyperlinked, but there's links that take you to these different aspects of the program. So next slide, please. So, okay, we also have a lot of training available within BSA. So especially Leave No Trace training. And Leave No Trace is a separate organization. It's a nonprofit organization that works with the National Park Service, works with the U.S. Forest Service, works with a lot of state agencies like in here in Massachusetts. So if you go to a Massachusetts state park, there'll be information about Leave No Trace. The same 7 principles that we use in Scouts. But the Scouts is really the biggest partner of Leave No Trace for sharing information with young people. And so we're authorized to present all of these courses. And so there are several, including some that we've developed ourselves. The Outdoor Ethics Orientation, where basically the information we're going through now takes about an hour, but so a little bit more detail than I'm going through now, but kind of an orientation and overview of these different aspects of outdoor ethics and scouting. And just in 2023, Leave No Trace changed the names of the courses. So I put the former course names on this slide because the former names may sound familiar, but the new names are BSA Leave No Trace Basics. That's because Leave No Trace came up with their own course called 101, so ours overlapped with it in the name, so we changed our name. But basically, this is 3 or 4 hours, some classroom, but mostly out and outside, where the Scouts actually get to practice some of the Leave No Trace principles. The Leave No Trace Level 1 instructor course is usually a weekend where youth members, older youth members and adults, both learn about the 7 principles of leave no trace and actually practice teaching them to others. So that course again is open to 3 to youth members, and we encourage youth members to take. The level 1 instructor course is really more for older youth and adults. And then the BSA Leave No Trace level 2 instructor course, is 5.5 days. So usually over 2 weekends or most of a week. And there we, again, go through the 7 principles and we practice teaching them in many different scenarios. And one of those courses is coming up this upcoming spring at Camp Winooxet up in southern New Hampshire, up by Keene, New Hampshire, and Mount Monadnock State Park. So that's 2 weekends in 2024. So if you're interested in Leave No Trace, please, you can go to the website and sign up. Next slide. There are available. Have any of you earned this? Do you have any scouts for this? This awareness award. This relative. And back. Okay. Yeah, Matt, we lost you with a recording started. If you can share again.
Yes, I will do my best.
Okay. Yep. I was about to start sharing myself, but if you have it up already, go ahead. So anyway, those 2 awards are available. The awareness award is again really straightforward to do, and encourage you to interested in serving as the outdoor ethics guide in your unit. So next slide, please. And then here are just some other resources here. Steve Scannell and I serve on the National Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Committee, and we do an online roundtable similar to this once a month. And those are for folks all over the country. There's usually at least 100 people on, sometimes 120 or 130, 140 people. And so those are on the 2nd Wednesday of each month. But there's an archive of the past ones. We've been doing them we started sometime during COVID. So we've been doing them for a couple of years now. And so some of the topics are really oriented for people who are kind of implementing conservation programs at a national level or your council level. So I guess they may be interesting to you. Some of them are more focused on for unit level leaders. And so anyway, those roundtables are a good resource. This page, and you can see that again, that link behind a little bit, but outscouting.org, outdoor programs, has a section on conservation and environment, a section on Leave No Trace, and a section on outdoor ethics. So those are all available. I can't believe I forgot to put this in here, but the Distinguished Conservation Service Award is another great award, kind of more conservation focused, but it's certainly related. And I see we have like 3.5 minutes left. So maybe, Matt, do you want to try to do a video, or do we want to see if anybody has any questions?
I think just based on my internet stability and computer stability, probably best to just answer questions if we can.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah. And these slides, like I said, have these links in it. And I'm going to ask Greg if he can post them when he posts the video for the and the recordings for the roundtable. So if you want to go on and download the slides and then check out the check out those links. There was a link on the Outdoor Ethics Guide page. There's a 1-minute video that explains that role, and I covered some of that information already. And here, there's also a link. Some of you may have seen the hand signals for the 7 principles of Leave No Trace. Does that sound familiar? Has anybody seen that before? So I see Steve. It looked like Steve is raising his hand there. Yeah. So there are 7 principles, and this is a system for the scouts to help them to learn. But basically, it's like the first principle, number 1. I know my screen is kind of dark here, so maybe you can see. But the principle 1: plan ahead and prepare. So it's like you're using a sheet of paper, and you write. You're planning ahead. The second principle is travel and camp on surfaces. 2 is like 2 fingers, and you're traveling. So it's going through the 7 principles like that. I saw a hand up and then it went down. Heather, did you have a question or something you wanted to share?
No, I've seen it before.
Oh, right. You're saying you've seen the 7 principles before. Okay. So anyway, there's lots of cute videos that go through those 7 principles. Does anybody have any questions about outdoor ethics and scouting or about the resources that I pointed to? See none. Is everybody still awake? So I guess the one last thing I will say is with regard to, I mentioned the Leave No Trace 2 instructor course. Also for one instructor course. That's the weekend. We're targeting those in late March or early April. But before camporees and everything gets kind of really busy with the full calendar. So again, if you have older scouts, venturers, or adult leaders who are interested in Leave No Trace and practicing how to share that information with scouts,
Hey, before we go into closing, does anybody have anything they wanted to bring up as far as leader forum, parking lot, questions about anything that didn't get fully explained in your breakouts? Or anything else that we've covered to this point this evening?
It's something we didn't cover, but it was said, thank me for the College of Commissioner Science. It's not me, it's a team. And so I just want to thank everybody on that team. And for all you people who are not commissioners, what I would like you to do is find out who your unit commissioner is and don't forget it, because that kind of came up at our college yesterday. Who's your unit commissioner? And sometimes you don't know. So make it a point to get to know who your unit commissioner is and use him or her as a resource person anytime you wish. So raise your hand if you know who your unit commissioner is right now. Yeah, less than half. Okay, that's what I mean. Nothing personal. It's okay, but get to know who they are.
I know who my council commissioner is, who I have to answer to, and my district commissioner, I know who I have to answer to. So, all right. Okay. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt for closing.
Okay, if you haven't realized and you weren't part of the Boy Scout breakout or the Scouts BSA breakout, my internet connection's a little bit choppy, so I'll do my best. Many of us think of this type of wreath around this time of year. This is a wreath that, symbolizes the holidays, and there's all kinds of history about the wreaths and where those come from, but that's not the wreath I want to talk about tonight. I wanted to talk about this wreath, and we've actually been talking about it quite a bit tonight. This is the wreath of commissioner service. And if you are not familiar with commissioners, we discussed the commissioner college that we did this weekend. Every unit has a unit commissioner assigned to them. And I'm not sure if everyone's aware of what commissioners do, but just to kind of give you a quick idea, a unit commissioner is there to be a resource, to be a connection to the district and the council, and to represent you when necessary. So as Peter said earlier, please try to be familiar with your unit commissioner, ask for their help. If you don't know who your commissioner is, find out. We are there to help you. We are there to assist with things like rechartering, with answering questions about recruitment and those things that you may not be as familiar with. And we're going to help you by connecting you to those resources that already exist. So that's the unit commissioner. We also have roundtable commissioners who hopefully you're familiar with. They are helping present this meeting tonight. And we have administrative commissioners who make sure that the commissioners are familiar with what they're doing and guide them in their roles. So please be familiar with commissioning, and if you're considering that it might be something you want to do, reach out to your commissioner and we will help you find out how to become a commissioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Now, I want to thank everyone who's attending this evening. I want to remind you that January 1st is a holiday. So our next roundtable is actually on the second Monday of January, on January 8th. It is a hybrid. We will be in person at the Epicenter. We'll be talking about some fun things like hypothermia, winter activities for Cub Scouting, merit badge information and steps of merit badges with the Scouts BSA, talking about All In for Scouting, and we will be having a food challenge. It's January. We all will have our New Year's resolutions, and so our food challenge will be healthy snacks. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all in January, and I want to wish you all a very happy, healthy, safe holiday season. Thanks for joining us tonight. Good night.